pero si en la de Cupido. Mira, yo tengo un amor sincero que sí me quiere bastante. Yo tengo un amor sincero, vamos a ver, que sí me quiere bastante. No confundan, caballeros, estoy hablando de mi madre. Ya, Yoruba. Vamos a ver, vamos a ver. Quiero cantarle al amor esta linda melodía nacida de corazón, repítelo.
Quiero cantarle al amor, quiero cantarle al amor esta linda melodía nacida de corazón.
Señores, quiero cantarle al amor, quiero cantarle al amor esta linda melodía nacida de corazón, díselo.
Quiero cantarle al amor,
Juan Juan,
quiero cantarle al amor esta linda melodía nacida de corazón.
A mi madre yo la venero, por eso quiero cantarle al amor esta linda melodía nacida del corazón. Oye,
Quiero cantarle al amor,
dice,
quiero cantarle al amor esta linda melodía nacida de corazón.
¿quién no ha llorado por amor? Ya que me diga,
¿Quién no ha llorado?
para decirle mentira.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Oye, todos sufrimos y lloramos.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Sí, lloramos porque se amamos.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Repito, mi madre yo la venero.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, por eso tanto te quiero.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, no quiero que te vayas nunca, no.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Oye, sin ti no tengo alegría.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
No quiero que llegue ese maldito día.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, que tú tengas que irte.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Oye, tanto cariño me diste.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, yo olvidarte lo logré.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Mamá, tú me pudiste dar fe.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Oye, en tantos años de victoria.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, te llevaré en la memoria.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, pero tú eres maravillosa.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Madre, pero tú eres la llave.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Oye, porque afino mi tango.
¿Quién no ha llorado?
Dice, llora como yo lloré. Ahí, háblalo.
Llora como yo lloré.
Oye, yo lloré también.
Llora como
Oye, pero llora llorona.
llora como
Me digo, Madre Santa.
llora como yo lloré.
Llora, buena nana.
Llora como
Oye, con sentimiento en los oídos.
llora como
Señores, por eso mismo les digo.
llora como
Oye, yo andado le canta.
llora como
Ah, buena nana. Con yo candela La Habana. Dice, ahí nada más, machetona, machetona, che.
ahí nada más, mache,
Machetona.
ahí nada más,
Oye, con sentimiento de manana.
ahí nada más,
Por eso desde ahora hasta mañana.
ahí nada más,
Oye, yo andado le canta.
ahí nada más,
Machetona.
ahí nada más,
Oye, lo miro, mambo me lleva.
ahí nada más,
Dice, machetona. Repite mi coro yoruba.
machetona,
Machetona, che.
machetona,
Oye, yoruba andado te dice.
machetona.
Ochan la babang la fuchoro. Obatala safie denu babala.
Eric Hodson, how you doing?
Oh, hello, sir. How are you?
Welcome. I'm doing great. CT is logging on right now.
Fantastic.
This is The Forge with Danny McAtee and CT Duel. Speak of the devil, here he is.
Yes, sir.
Duel,
What's going
how are
on,
you?
gentlemen?
Welcome.
Howdy.
We're joined by one of my longtime friends and colleagues, Eric Hodson. I believe you're in Sonora, right?
Yep, that's it.
Welcome.
Welcome, Eric. Good to see you.
Very good to see you, CT.
I'd like to come out of the gate with a question for both of you.
Oh, all right.
What part of yourself did you bury to belong?
Always dropping bombs.
I was like, can we start with like, what's your favorite ice cream or?
What's your favorite color? Damn, man.
What part did you bury? Well, I would like to clarify because I'm a big fan of specificity. To belong where? Is there any way we can hone this into what kind of belonging do you mean?
I'll start by answering. For those of you who are joining us, welcome. This is The Forge. It's a men's group that we have created because we believe we need a space to talk about things that in other places we don't talk about. And so the answer to this question for me would be something different in each little microcosm that I've been in, right? So maybe that was sexuality at work. Maybe that was religion in front of my friends. Maybe that was a political opinion in front of this group that I would expose over here, but not over here. Because I have friends that are all over the ideological, socioeconomic, religious spectrum, and sometimes I'd be like, "Ooh, I don't think I can bring this part of me here." And so there have been a number of parts that I have selectively buried, but the end result has been never showing up authentically. That makes sense. At work, no one has any idea what my political ideas are, what I agree with, don't agree with. It never mattered to me that anyone knew that. And I thought that it could just be a problem, right? And so I chose to withhold that. No one needs to know who I voted for, if I voted at all, what I believe, don't believe. And so this goes as deep as we want it to go, and it really, the point of the question is to be a little vague.
I'm sorry. Are you guys hearing that music?
I do.
Is that just me?
You hear some
Totally me
music?
too. Yeah, the music.
I hear it, and it's so good, and it makes everything you were saying sounds like more profound too. But it was also throwing me off, man. It was also okay.
Working out some studio glitches. That's all on me. I'm trying to be a producer, and I'm not there yet. But thanks for calling it to my attention because I didn't hear any music.
I think it's
Doing a
working.
great job.
Yeah, man.
So CT, what part of yourself did you bury to belong, and where?
Oh man, I didn't want to cut. I feel like I cut Eric off to
No, I was just curious. Go CT,
Okay.
go.
All right, man. Well, I mean, we've talked a couple times, Danny. I certainly, this goes back to kind of the nice guy thing, the nice guy syndrome, right? I'm a chameleon. So whoever I'm with, I'm gonna kind of act like them, think how they think, take on their beliefs. Whatever y'all want to do, let's do it. I don't have needs. I don't have desires. I don't make mistakes, right? Other people know I make mistakes, but I'm like, nah, I don't make mistakes. I'm like a perfectly nice guy. Parts of my masculinity, suppressing parts of that, right? I can't be like my dad. I can't be controlling. I can't be aggressive. Can't be assertive. Um, you know. So yeah, a lot of different things, man. I've buried a lot of different things.
When did you first get the message that you had to bury a part of yourself to fit in, to survive, to slide through, to be safe?
I think early on in life. I think early on in life and childhood, through being mostly raised by women, and grateful for those women, but Sometimes the messaging was, if you do X, Y, and Z, then you're bad. If you, like I said, if you're aggressive or assertive, or if you're a leader even, then you're controlling, right? So definitely, and then we continue that when we go into school, right? Most teachers are females. So we continue to reinforce that pattern of, you have to be a good boy and be kind of safe and tame in order to get approval from um, the women that are important in your life. And then a lot of us men, we grow up and we continue those patterns in our adult relationships with our partners, with female partners or female friends, female coworkers, whoever it may be. Suppress that kind of like bad guy in me, the animal, and just be a good person. Of course, that leads to all sorts of negative consequences when you suppress parts of yourself where you're not authentic, right? So, yeah, upbringing, the women who raised me, yeah, teachers, school system. That's generally where I kind of got those beliefs.
Mhm.
What would today CT say to back then CT on this topic?
Oh man. I would ask him, how far has being a chameleon gotten you? You know, how much pain has actually come from just trying to suppress yourself, you know? Uh, cheaper to be yourself. It's easy to be yourself. But that takes a lot of vulnerability and fear facing to kind of come out of the closet and say, hey, this is me, right? This is who I am. This is what I think. These are my opinions. These are my boundaries. It takes facing the fear of rejection, right? Fear of abandonment. Because my belief previously was, if I assert myself and have boundaries, then you're going to leave me, right? So I would just tell them, look, this process is going to be long and it's going to be difficult to become yourself, but it's one of the most rewarding processes you could go through.
Damn. Thank you.
Agree to that.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Where do you weigh in on this, Clammy?
I definitely resonate. I think that there have been plenty of instances where, for the good of the group or for everybody else's benefit, I need to rein in or to not be the way or the how or the what that I want to be. Um, most of most of my success, I think, has actually been steps built by me holding back and not being the way that I want to be. Um, and it's been, for me, difficult to know if that is learning to temper. Like a really strong warrior can keep his sword in its sheath. You're able to have a lot more control of self. But at the same time, what's a warrior going to do in the garden all year? Like there's a whole part of me, the way that I think, or um, the impact I want to have, the opinions that I have. Uh, they don't seem to have a place, and that's been difficult. So a very poignant and specific example is my wife and I own a business. She is the um, physician that owns, that is a doctor, and I'm sort of the doctor's wife that is doing payroll and the business side of things, and she does the doctory side of things. And I have opinions about what we should do for the business. And those opinions don't go over so well. And I can feel justified in my argument uh, to my business partner slash wife that we should do things a certain way. Um, but it ended up just creating a lot of friction and a lot of conflict because uh, because that's not what she needs right now, you know, and being able to, for me, that example of like, I want to be a leader, I want to be in charge, I want to make some big moves, I want to move this business forward, I am driven to achieve, and that power is becoming destructive. And so the I'm sacrificing my own ambition and my own expectations, and honestly, to some degree, I would even say my beliefs, um, because well, I'm saying to myself, I'm prioritizing, you know, the relationship and there's instability that's created when you make a lot of changes. So that, you know, I'm prioritizing the stability and the relationship than my ability to exercise and to demonstrate whatever I think is important. So
Mm.
I think that it's been hard to find a place where all of me belongs. So I've not necessarily been chameleoned. I would count myself more like a Rubik's of some sort. Like in this place you see this side, and then
Mm.
in this place you see this side, and I get to still feel whole enough, but everyone only gets 1/8. I don't know. I don't know my Rubik's six. So you only get 1/6 of me. Um, and that's been frustrating to feel like there isn't a place where all of me belongs. Um, and if I ignore one part, like for example, if I love riding motorcycles, I love getting out in nature and just being in the world. And if I don't do that for a long time, then that side starts to get a little raw and gets a little angry and starts to push on me a little bit. So finding ways to have a place to experience myself, that's a weird way to put it, but maybe I need a place to connect with myself, that part of me, that side of me. Um, but not all places are the right place for all parts of me.
Very, very well said. Thank you for that. I had to take notes. I had to say the part that you said it's hard to find a place where all of me belongs was like a bucket of cold water. What I think I'm hearing, and please correct me if this is inaccurate, but what I think I'm hearing is I can either be safe or be seen.
Yeah, I feel in my experience, because safe, the word safe for me imparts a picture of a power dynamic where if I were to if I were to play this card, then I can rise the dragon. If something bad can happen and it's no longer, I'm not protected, I'm not capable of handling that. Or being seen, if I play this card, they'll notice me, but those people that notice me have knives. And so it comes with, but I feel like, and that's, I think, maybe why I chose to say it like a place to experience myself, because I think that there are parts of me that I want to connect to. And I do that through relationships often and through the communication and village that I have. Um, but I think it's not just that I want somebody else to like it. I think there's a part of it where like I want to like it too. And maybe that's the safety element. Like it is going to be productive and respected to be the boss, for example. I'm going to be the boss today. If you're like, yay, boss, good for you. I want to see that leadership. I want to see that decision making. I want to see that risk taking. And then I can say like, yes, because this is a part of me that I want to exercise. Um, but I think that being seen, if I haven't looked at it, it's also not seen. There's that element too. Like I have chosen to ignore the fact that I have strong political affiliations or I have, you know, a challenging, you know, interpersonal thing or whatever it is that I'm dealing. I've chosen to ignore it. And so, but I have to see it too. It's not just that it has to be seen and made in some sort of public thing, but it's also like I have to experience it and connect to it.
No. I wonder what it would look like if you found a place where all of you belongs.
I would say, without too much hesitation, that I think that's what this is. I think that this is exactly that kind of space, something that's flexible, something that is uh, dynamic and supportive, something that is not surprised or limited. Like, we're only here to talk about, we're only going to talk about politics. I don't want to hear about your religion because that's too complicated. Like, I'm allowed to explore all my sides as we try to debrief or try to explore something. I think that this is what that looks like, because I don't have to perform, and I'm not asking anybody else to perform. I'm not asking anybody else to do anything. I just get to be with people who are being and wholly being themselves. And this is the miracle right here.
Thank you for falling into my trap question. Thank you for saying that, because that is the goal.
Mm,
The goal is for all of us, all of me, all of you, all of CT, all of everyone to be present and accounted for, unedited and safe. But that doesn't mean that everyone agrees with everyone. That means that there's some terms in like the coaching world, and there's some terms that kind of get on my nerves a little bit. And one of them is holding space. And yet that's what holding space means. That means I can be present for you. I can be fully you can have my full attention. I can be fully listening to you, hearing you, and also not in agreement with a particular position, because I don't have to be, right? Because it's not a boxing ring of ideas. And so thank you for saying that. That is the goal. If you're joining us now, my name is Danny McAtee. I'm joined by my friend CT Duel and my friend Eric Hodson, also known as Clammy, call sign Clammy. And this is the Forge. As Eric just very eloquently said, the goal of the Forge is to have a place where we can be our unedited versions in the presence of other men. Because I think for one reason or another, and I mean, I think it's important to point out, this is a group of 3 Caucasian men. I don't know how we subdivide that up, but we are Caucasian appearing men, and our experience is very different than men of color. And there are groups that can hold that. And that is my goal, is to have a place where men can come and be completely authentic without having to do any mental gymnastics about, well, what if I do this, or what is it safe to say? What part of myself cannot be on the table here? And the Forge is meant to be a place where all of the parts can be on the table in a way that it is not meant to be editorialized. So thank you for that, Eric.
yeah, I like being able to just say that my wife and I are having a fight, and to not have to feel like, well, it's obviously because you're a horrible husband. You don't care about what's important. And, I guess it's just that's exactly why I just dove right into the specifics, because I don't have to be
Bossy.
afraid.
You're bossy.
It's so bossy. Yeah. I just want to do something worthwhile, and finding a way to do that is just hard. It's just hard to sink my teeth into something that's big enough to be worth the time and small enough to fit into everybody else's expectations and allowances. It's just such an interesting thing to imagine that I'm bigger than my life, and to then start, pushing some boundaries and pushing against the walls and stretching the envelope. And no, oh no, not for you. Oh no, that's not the way. And to have to really navigate that delicately, because I could totally just burn my whole life apart and move to some other city and try to start over. But how nice would it be instead to be able to to do to become everything that I wish to become, on the foundation that validated that I didn't have to sacrifice life. I didn't have to sacrifice everything to get there. I don't want to lose what I've got. So I respect that. I respect that a lot.
Thank you. One of the reasons I came to Mexico was to be reinvented, right? Without having to move upstream.
Mm.
without having to explain, without having to bargain. I find that sometimes when I showed up in a different way, I was sort of performing a negotiation with people on a number of different topics. And in San Francisco, I always felt like I was swimming upstream, if not just like two ramps, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to be any more clear about, I do not want to go out drinking. Like, I don't know how much clearer I can be for you than that.
But dude, like, I want to have a relationship with you, man, and that's the only way to do it.
Right. I mean, well, people talk about conditions, people talk about the greater the connection, the fewer the conditions, right? And the few conditions that there are just tabled authentically and transparently. Like, here's what I need from you. Yeah. What's coming up for me in all, the Forge is a place where we bring, or I should say, the Forge is a place where I would like people to feel that they can bring old pain, old wounds, and sometimes things have to live one more time before they can pass away.
Yes.
Things have to come up a little bit, and the boil has to be lanced. And what's coming up for me right now is one of the big ways that still haunts me about parts of myself that I buried to belong was in the trauma room. Right. For those of you who haven't worked in medicine, I had a career as a paramedic and in public health. Eric has a career in medicine currently. And I was never a doctor. Although I was in PA school, I never became a PA. But I was a medic. And what paramedics really are trained observers. I mean, really more than anything, we are nosy and gossipy. And we report our nosy and gossipy findings to people that can, ideally solve them. With a few interventions along the way, and sometimes in an effort to not have a badass resident with an arrogant attitude come for me or write me up, I'd just be like, okay. There are a few instances where patients had bad outcomes because instead of fighting for something that I believed to be right, I was just like, it's going to be much easier for me to just go away. So I did. And that's moral injury is described as consciously existing in an environment or situation that is counter to our intuition beliefs, or in some cases opinions. But
so that makes me think like the definition of moral injury is the inconsistency of your authentic self, like failing to have space for your authentic self as practiced and embodied in having to have some bullshit puppet master shove his hand all the way up you and say, you're going to do this because this is what you're supposed to do. And it feels, I don't know if you guys have been in that situation, but I find it very uncomfortable when it's time to have somebody go elbow deep and talk for you. It's just really not my jam. I have so much appreciation, man, for highlighting that. Because moral injuries, like that sounds good in a paper, but like I know exactly what that feels like, having to
it's
put on
terrible.
the mask, play the part. Yuck.
It's terrible. And in most cases, I would say most of, if you talk to your average man and you say, fill this paper up with shit that haunts you, right? I can honestly say that I've crossed almost all of them off the list. They're still there. I still know that they happen, but do they haunt me or affect me? Do I have nightmares about? Almost none. The few that still come back and haunt me is when I was like, I'm just going to be quiet because I don't want to fight with you today.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you stroke it, feel good about yourself, even though you're fucking wrong. Here's an example. AAA, right? Coming to the trauma room with someone that had passed out and called the ambulance because they passed out. And I was telling the resident, like in my report, like, I really feel like you should skin this person's abdomen. The pulse was inconsistent here or here. And having people tell me like, why don't you just drive in the ambulance and why don't you let us just be surgeons? And I was like, sounds good. Patient died of a AAA that night. Given some Zofran and given some stuff for like an upset stomach and just like parked over in the hallway and ended up passing away. And there was me being like, I just caused
How
someone to die because I was
how
uncomfortable being like, no puppet master. I'm about to go elbow deep.
yeah,
Check their abdomen.
man. You know, and I'm curious to ask because I think that one of the things that you and I, Danny, love about medicine is that when it comes to things like life and death, it makes nuanced and difficult lessons really, really powerful and clear. You know, but I think that there are lots of ways where people can have a situation where they had to not do what they thought was right because of, quite honestly, bullshit pressures and uh, the politic of the environment to try and make that as comfortable as possible. And I don't know, CT, if you're willing to share anything, but have you ever had a situation where you knew something was supposed to happen and you had to like not show up, you know, because it was gonna be a difficult environment?
Hmm, not off the top of my head.
Well, I am very thankful that you're not having that nightmare.
Here's one. This
Yeah.
happened to me when I was working in bars or drinking in bars a lot of times where like CT comes to tell me, and this is for the audience, this is just hypothetical. This did not really happen. But CT comes to me, for instance, and says, "Hey, I think you should take Eric's keys." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's swerving around a little bit. Now he'll be fine. Be totally fine." And then later, I'm like, "Hey, you think you want to give me your keys?" "Fuck you. I'm fine. I can drive it." Right? Adverse outcome. There have been a number of those where I was like, I should
Should have
have done
pushed it.
this. I saw that this was wrong, but I didn't want to get into a fight with someone that had a strong personality.
Mhm.
Um, and those are the ones that some of those are still on the list that flare up and bother me from time to
Yeah.
time. So it's helpful that I was able to say it here. I mean, I will say my batting average in a patient advocacy role pretty high, right? Pretty high number of write-ups, right? Pretty
Mhm.
high number of like, I just got a call from so and so at the hospital who said you said this, this, and this. And I was like, I did say all of that. That's exactly what I said, and I stand by it. You can write me up if you want. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other part of it is I feel, this isn't. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of medicine because not all of our viewers are in that world. But for the viewers who are just joining us, welcome. My name is Danny McAtee. This is The Forge. It's a group for men, but when we have lives, all are welcome. The men part goes on privately and not on air. This is my friend and colleague CT Duel, and my friend and colleague from way back, Eric Hodson from Sonora, California. Welcome. The question that we posed today was, what part of myself did I bury to belong? Comment if you like, or join us. CT,
Yeah.
talk to me.
Mhm.
I have a question for Eric.
Sir.
I'll just deflect the opportunity.
There-
Um, Eric, you mentioned sometimes when you ignore a certain part of yourself. I think specifically you said you like to ride motorcycles, get into nature, and when you ignore that or you don't give it time for a while, it starts to kind of yap at you. What is that? What is that? How does that go down? And how do you address it? Or is it just as simple as like, yo, I haven't gotten out on the bike in a while. Let me go get out and do something for
Yeah.
me.
There are so many. I just wish that I could open up my stats card, whether you're doing Dungeons and Dragons or if you're doing an online game, you just open your stats card and be like, "Oh, look at that. My health is down. I should go to the tavern and get some health." You know, like you're able to know what you need. I just by trial and error, um I've come to understand that there's ways that I need to experience myself, and I kind of like that phrase. But there are things that I need to do for me, um, because when I've done them, suddenly I'm far more balanced. So I'm having this. I have a short fuse. I'm not as fun with my kids. I'm distracted at work. I'm doom scrolling more often. I'm not getting to sleep at night. I'm waking up late in the morning. I'm eating too much junk food and I'm craving a bunch of carbs and sugar. Like there's this decline of performance. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And I can see like, well, work is a bear right now and I'm working too much. But I can also see that having a conversation like this, and suddenly I'm like actually reset. I feel better. I'm more at peace, and I can re-engage with my responsibilities without feeling too bad about it. And so I don't think it's a balance where like the chips have to equal. It's just that everybody has to have a place at the table. And all those parts of me need to be given some sort of time. And so the part of me that needs to stop performing, the part of me that just wants to be receptive, that's motorcycle rides, that's going on walks, that's being out, that's listening to the birds, it's just being still. I need that time. It can happen in a lot of ways, but I just need to be still. Uh, Other areas, I suppose, are like being creative. I've been a filmmaker. I'm a photographer. I do drone photography. I'm interested in music. I play the piano very poorly. I just need to make something. I need to create something. And if I don't create something for me, I just it just aches. There's just something weird. And then I'll stumble into like this 30-minute piano jam, and I'm like, oh, I feel better now. Weird. I don't know why I feel better now. And I think there's just this, it feels as though I am my whole self in here somewhere, but that whole self has to be made into existence. It has to be created. It has to be made real and embodied. And if there's a part of me that cannot come to life, then it starts to die in the womb. Maybe it starts to fall apart where it was. It starts to wither on the vine before it buds. And so I feel like I'm not doing well, frustrated for 2 or 3 days, stumble into some experience that addresses that need, and now suddenly I'm doing better. So now I'm trying to get better at recognizing like, oh, I see the signs. I'm not I'm not optimum right now. Where am I at? And I don't actually look for what I'm doing a lot of because I can work hard. That doesn't bother me. Um, it's what am I doing none of? What have not been able to do? And it is the same of my heart that I have 45 minutes available and I would rather watch some stupid anime thing on Netflix because I'm falling into a habit of please just make it stop instead of engaging to the therapy of like, how about we just step outside? How about we do something that's less easy and more productive? And I'm too lazy for that shit, man. I don't want to do productive and therapeutic. I want to do easy. So it takes me a while to come around to what I need to do.
Recommend you do not get TikTok ever. Don't
I
do it.
I have avoided the talk so far. I feel good about that. I don't watch the news hardly at all. People are more than happy to tell me what's happened. Uh, but I got my black holes that I can fall into and disappear for 2 or 3 hours, and it's just not productive. And I'm getting to an age and a life busyness element where like I just don't have a day to blow anymore. Like the consequence of that is quite devastating to the overall stability of many people's lives, not just mine. So now I have to be a lot more intentional about what I do with my minutes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for that, Kareem.
Sorry, Danny, for introducing you to TikTok. I wasn't my. We were supposed to be posting only, man.
Downward spiral.
I didn't realize the power of that drug I was
Oh shit.
putting in your hand.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'd like to provide a counterpoint, which is, Eric, you just mentioned that there's a number of people that depend on you. You have a business, you have a career, all of those must be balanced. There's fewer adults than there are kids, right? Like that's a very specific dynamic. Imagine if you turn 50 and you're retired, which is where I'm at, where I have a complete removal of structure, and the only people that depend on me are dogs, and they're just like, we can go here, we can go there, they're just like, so you want to go for another walk? Let's go for another walk. You want to sleep in bed? Let's sleep in bed. And so I have found myself, and it sounds so cruel to even fucking say this, because in the United States, people have to work their fucking guts out for so much of their lives. I feel
Mhm.
incredibly blessed and fortunate to have worked in a municipal agency that even gives a pension, because almost no one has that anymore. So I do want to say the overriding thing that I feel is always gratitude. And also, I don't know how to not have structure.
Mm.
I don't know how to not be, for the next 4 days, 16 hours a day, you're going to be doing this, and this. You have a structure. You clock in at this time. You're on this channel. Everything's over the radio. Every move you make, your physical location, your everything. If you go to the hospital, you call. I'm so and so. I'm going to this hospital at this time. Then you call the hospital, say you're coming. Right, with all this different structure, and now there's almost none,
Yeah.
other than what I create for myself, and a lot of times I fail to create it for myself. The great news is that I go to the gym a lot, so that's good.
Yeah.
And I have a trainer who provides some structure for me. But I'm finding myself in a place where I didn't know that I didn't know how to create structure. And I'm learning how to create structure instead of constantly being busy to feel like I'm doing something, being useful.
Yeah. That's though I feel similar because I just clocked in. Work is a great structure, and I think especially friends in the military environments and paramilitary type services where a lot of your life is set up for you in that you know what you're going to do, you know where you're going to stay, you know where you're going to sleep, and you actually have very little time to yourself. And so, what do you do for 15 hours a week of your 144 hours? You're just going to desperately try to get some laundry done and then go see some friends. But now I'm in the same boat because I would do somewhere between 80 and 120 hours a week uh, for working 2 or 2.5 full-time jobs, days and nights. And I did that for 5 or 6 years, trying to pay off my wife's student debt, uh, which is an interesting topic at some point. But working really hard to pay off someone's debt is an interesting experience. And being now that I'm in a place where I have competing priorities to work, I have to really pay attention. And I am not a structured person. I live in the in between. I find a gap and I fill it. I don't come to the world with an expectation. I see what the world has available and I slide in wherever I can. And it's been a very difficult evolution of efficiency for me to try to learn how to have a schedule and make it feel like it's mine because everybody else wants me.
Interesting. My technique is the bed making technique. I get up and the first thing I do is make my bed, no matter what, no exceptions. Well, I guess the only exception would be if I'm taking off the sheets to wash them on Sunday and then I just put it right back on new sheets.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one way that I provide structure. For those of you who are joining us, welcome. This is The Forge. My name is Danny. This is my friend CT and my friend Eric. And this is a place for men to talk about things that occur to us, that we experience, that we live through, survive, manage. And one of the biggest things that I have discovered about being a man is how enmeshed my personal identity became with my professional identity.
Mm.
And then when my professional identity went away because I retired very young, I was like a ghost. I didn't know who I was. I felt like I was no one and nothing because I wasn't being productive. Right? There is an incredible phenomenon of suicidality when people leave the workforce, either by choice or not. When people are laid off, when they're, I have a number of clients who have lost their jobs or had their jobs terminated because of cutbacks that are going on in some governmental agencies, and they're all of a sudden they're like, I don't even fucking know who I am, what I'm for. I'm not producing anything for my family. I'm worthless. They'd be better off without me, et cetera, et cetera. Mm. So this is one of the things that men we struggle with is work identity, personal identity, and how to have them both. They don't have to be the same thing. Yeah, it's one of the many topics that we throw down. I feel it's a very important one. So anyone who wishes to join the conversation, you're welcome.
Yeah, man. How was that? Did you experience guilt at first when you were okay? Now you're retired. There's not much structure. I asked that because one of the hardest parts for me about leaving a job and now I have more free time, or even like being sick or something, where I can't be productive. I experience this immense guilt of like, oh, you're not being productive. You're not doing something. I think a challenge for a lot of men is resting
Yeah,
or just stillness
yeah.
or just being, Did you experience that, Denny, or was it kind of straight to let me give myself structure?
That's a really good question. I would not use the word guilt. For me, it felt a little bit more like when someone gets released from prison and they close the gate behind them and they're like, but all my friends are in there. I want to go back. Right? This is the hell that I know. This other hell out here, I don't know how to manage this. So for me, number one, I had a little bit of a head start because of the work I have done, so much work in trauma and first responders, that people that had had that process before me were saying, I lived through this, I experienced this. So I was like, oh shit, let me try to prepare for that somehow. So not guilt. Sometimes I felt a little bit like, who the hell am I? Like, I'm 48. Like, I should be working until I die like everyone else, right? I should be obese and dragging myself to Starbucks, to the car, to work and back, and I should be doing this. So there was a little bit of, I don't know if you would call that guilt or not, but there was more like, I need to be productive. I can't just fucking sit here. You know what I mean? I can't, although I'm not at a career, although I'm no longer in the fire department, I can't just sit here and not have anything to do. I have to do something. And so for me, it felt a little bit more like the lack of productivity. You know what I mean?
Could I ask you? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry interrupting. I just want to ask, when you say productivity, there's something that comes to mind that I want to highlight a little bit, if you could, is being productive is not just, it's like you're not just stacking firewood and you're not just, painting the church down the street. Like, I think you're also needing to be like of exceptionally needed and useful service. Like, it's not just that you are employed. You don't, being a taxpayer is not the goal, but I think it's also like, as a paramedic, you got to be a superhero, and I tell my wife all the time, I wish you could see me at work because I'm actually a good person. When I come home, I'm a total idiot. I can't find my keys. I leave the cupboard doors open. I forgot to pick up the milk. I'm useless. But then I go to work and I'm saving people's lives. It's amazing. And I imagine that if I had lost that part of my life now, I would be stuck in the part of my life that I'm not a hero in. And I'm curious to ask if there's an element of that productivity that you mentioned. It's not just to be employed, but is it deeper than that? Was there more that you were getting from your employment?
Great question. Very deep question. I don't like the use of the word hero for me. Especially because my stats were off the last couple of years. I mean, we had a pandemic and fentanyl sweeping so I was like, don't know how many people I actually really saved.
Yeah.
My numbers kind of got inverted the last couple of years, but I think the word I would use is useful, needed. It was like this very, there's a concept in the world of PTSD, trauma, first responders, and work-related stress is that we don't choose the career chooses us because it mirrors the dysfunction of our world of origin. And for many of us, it has to do with codependency. So if it's like needed or depended upon, I think are sometimes the same, sometimes are different. But there was an aspect of invisibility right? I had a uniform with my name and a big silver badge and patches all over the place and a bunch of shit. And I drove this 10,000-pound vehicle, bright red. You can't miss it. Park anywhere you want. And then one day I'm just some dude in like gym shorts, like invisible. Right. And so that for me was both incredibly freeing because no one's, filming me with a camera all the time to write me up to some, you did this wrong or you gave this medicine or you shouldn't have. Like I was no longer under scrutiny, but I was also not noticed anymore and completely not needed. Right. No one needs anything from me on a day-to-day basis except for my dogs. And I'm glad, and I need as much from them. So yeah, so there is definitely a deeper element of deeper identity element, and also sort of a, what is my function if not to be of service? And as CT said, I think many of us really struggle with rest. When I felt guilty was when I'm like laying in a hammock and I'm like, I'm just being a total fucking loser, man. I'm just sitting here doing nothing. When in fact, I'm like, or I worked 12 and 16-hour days, except usually at night, for many, many years, holidays, weddings, funerals, Christmases, Thanksgivings, St. Patrick's Day, New Year's Eve, you name it, I worked it, cutting people down from cords when they hung themselves, doing all this shit that I'm like, actually, no, I actually feel like I really have earned the chance to be able to rest and sleep at nighttime and be awake in the daytime now. And so I try to find a little bit of balance, but I also struggle a little bit with what is my purpose and who am I useful to? If that makes sense.
Very much.
And I'm useful to my
Very
dogs.
much.
So that's all. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, man. I mean, it really puts together and is impactful to recognize that all transitions are hard, but even when you think you're out of the fire, you're still in something. Out of the fire into the forge. That's funny.
That's right. That's right. And so what are we going to do? I'm going to voluntarily put my emotions on the internet and go deep into my, deep, dark personal secrets.
Yeah.
Listen, there is a phenomenon in the military and paramilitary organizations, certainly police, fire, EMS, where when you go to the academy, they're like, Eric, CT, you're in the family now. You're one of us. They pin you, you go through a ceremony, they play bagpipes, there's a big deal. It's the brotherhood, no man's left behind. And the minute you're injured, they like drag your body out and drag a fresh one in the front door, and you're just no longer useful, right? The minute you retired, especially early, because I retired medically, they're like, thanks for the memories. No one ever calls you again, right? And so it's like, I thought it was a part of a family.
Yeah.
And so there's that like a feeling of abandonment a little bit for me.
Yeah. That reminds me of not being in the squad. You're just a part of the phalanx. Like you are deeply dependent on the guy next to you to hold his shield, as the guy to the right of you expects you to hold your shield. Like we all need to do our part to hold the line. But it's to hold the line. If you're not holding the line, you might as well not even exist, because all we care about is holding the line. And it's difficult because the reason why we care so much is because of the people, the family, all of that emotional village building stuff. But in actuality, it's a unfair black and white exchange effort for belong. And if you're not there bleeding and sweating with us, then you don't belong. And I think that is a shame to have to go through that kind of divorce at retirement. That you have to lose so much, because you don't just lose the work, you also lose all those people. And those people might not even have a reason to care about you anymore because of how much about being in the ditch together is what that work's about. So I appreciate that.
I'm going to throw out a big theory of mine. Who knows if it's based in reality or not. But Eric, you work closely with cardiology, Takotsubo cardiomyopathy is real. Call it
100%.
the broken heart syndrome. where people die of a broken heart. And I think it's very interesting that people work in the fire service, people work in, law enforcement for 25, 30, 35 years. And within 2 years, they die of a heart attack. Often, right? They finally reach there and then no one calls them anymore and they have no sense of purpose and they're grieving this sense of identity that they don't have a context for and they just simply have a heart attack. And I could fill a page with names just from my, my little community, a little 7x7 San Francisco Bay Area. And so I think it's really an important topic, and not only with EMS, of course, but for men.
Yeah.
Right? Again, because so much of our sense of purpose is rooted in our professions. And when something happens that changes that, it can have a very big impact on us.
Yeah. I think that making sure to dive into what is work for and why does it matter is a great way to start teasing out in one's own experience. Work is really important because I get to be useful. Like, okay, that's fair. That is not the only way to be useful. Let's start exploring how you are a competent and respected and capable man to go and take your skills to be useful in something that is more than this, dumbass clock punching that you've been doing every day. Because getting punched in the face and trading blood drops for dollars is a really, like very shallow way to live, but at least you know what to expect every day. I think it's very different to be fully your own and to be in the world of your own self, now able to decide, well, what do I really care about? And without some sort of foundation to stand on, it can be really disconcerting, really, really unbalancing to know now where to put your efforts.
Yeah.
Um,
Well
Yeah.
said. Well said. Listen, I knew that I was getting very close to the end when when someone would die at work and I'd be like, nah, death is a liberation. What do you want to eat? I started to just be like,
Yeah, can't
yeah,
touch
you
it.
win
I'm
some,
not
you
even gonna
lose
go there.
some. Yeah, I'm hungry. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's when my friends were like, I think you've been here long enough.
I think that you've held the line hard enough. Yeah. And I'll just say as a colleague, like I think every man knows what it is to get burnt out. And though it is an extreme example to watch somebody die and to not even notice, but to be more concerned about the stain on my shoes and the fact that I got to clean my bus now before I get back on shift, but go into work and you've got your spreadsheets or you've got your business meetings or you've got your travel and nothing, it doesn't matter anymore. And when you start to see the world that you inhabit no longer mattering, well, it's time to start. You need to start looking at a new place, a new spot, or a pivot of some sort. Because if you exist in a place that does not matter, very soon you will not. You will not have matter. You will have to just give up yourself to stay in there, and you lose yourself.
Yeah. Caught deep fried and crispy is
Yeah.
the grave of the medical worker. As always, an incredibly intense, powerful, and interesting conversation. We have a little bit of time left before the top of the hour. I want to open the floor up. CT, how do you feel about this topic today?
Damn good topic. Damn good question again, man. Yeah, I was just gonna chime in on coming from kind of the corporate world, 9 to 5 office world. It's funny because most people's sentiments, if you get them talking like on some real talk, right? Not just playing the corporate line, they're like, fuck this job. Can't wait to retire. Can't wait to not be doing these meetings, spreadsheets, all that. And then they get to retire and they go, oh shit, who am I? That identity piece kicks in and then they're right back. So in corporate, a lot of people never really retire because they'll come back and do some consulting and stuff. Because my whole life has been centered around this job for 30 plus years. And I don't have a life outside of that. Right. So it's kind of ironic, right? The whole time they're working and they're like, dude, I can't wait to get out of here. And then they get out, they're right back. And I think that plagues us, man. Intertwining our identity as men with our work. It's a great topic.
Yeah.
Enmeshing. This is a word
Yeah.
that I learned, a psychological term I learned, enmeshing. That freaked me out. This and many more topics are on the table. I'd like to say all topics are on the table.
Mhm.
The Forge Men's Group. Why do we call it the Forge? Because as Eric mentioned, it's a superheated furnace, a fire where we put metal and we make it into a molten form and beat it and pound it over and over again until it becomes hardened. And that's an allegory for many of our lives, right? Our experiences have sometimes beaten us, always molded us. And as men, we have a very distinct and unique perspective and lived experience. And this is a place for us to share it completely openly, transparently, and with safety, non-judgment, and attention. Right? No right answers, no wrong answers, just your lived experience, and you're the only one in the world who's lived it, and you have a right to it. So I'd like to thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the viewers. I've seen a few of you coming on and joining us. Thank you for joining us. We will be live again Saturday at 11 Pacific time, 1 Eastern time. I invite you to the conversation. CT, Clammy, have a good
Always a
say,
pleasure.
brother.
Yeah.
We're having a hurricane, so the hurricane's, it looks like a band is about to start, so I'm gonna go batten down the hatches a little bit.
Oh shit, yeah.
If I can cook before we get blown up.
Stay
All right,
safe
well-
out there, man.
I look forward to seeing you with all your hair back in place.
Blew my weave right off. See you guys.
All right. Take care, Danny.